Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank you for listening to this little story of this little book, The Weight of the Mass. It really is a good story, isn't it? It reminded me when I was a little boy in the Philippines. So whenever we go to the church, I always see this little statue of Jesus, baby Jesus, and Jesus was holding the globe in his hand. Why? Because Jesus is God, and he has the whole world in his hand, protecting all of us, right? That's why the weight of the Mass is so heavy, because it's Jesus that we celebrate at Mass. There are so many ways in which Jesus is present in every celebration of the Mass, right? Jesus is everything during the holy sacrifice of the Mass. So today I'm going to explain to you the 5 ways in which Jesus can be encountered during the holy sacrifice of the Mass. Well, first and foremost, remember whenever I celebrate the Mass, I venerate this altar. Remember, I always go here, and then I would kiss it, right? So Jesus is always represented in the altar. So in a way, the altar is the center of the whole church building. Because when the bishop came here and blessed this church, he consecrated this altar. Because it is going to be on this altar that the sacrifice of Jesus during the holy sacrifice of the Mass happens, right? So remember, whenever we receive your gifts, we put the gifts in here of bread and the wine, and then when the priest elevates it, the Father looks at it, and that bread and wine becomes the body of Jesus right on this altar. So this altar represents Jesus every time we celebrate the holy sacrifice of the Mass. Another way in which we encounter Jesus is in the person of the priest, right? So the priest always sits at this chair and celebrates this holy sacrifice of the Mass as if he is Jesus, right? We have an old saying that says, the priest is an alter Christus. It's a Latin word, but in English it means the priest is another Christ when he celebrates the holy sacrifice of the Mass. That's why the priest always says the words of Jesus, the Lord be with you. He gives the Lord to the people, right? And then the priest always bless you as if he is Jesus blessing his people. Another way in which we encounter Jesus in the holy sacrifice of the Mass is through his word, right? Through his word in the Bible. That's why whenever we go to the holy sacrifice of the Mass, there's a reader that goes into the ambo, reads the Bible, and then after that, the priest goes there as well and reads the gospel, which are the very words of Jesus, right? And after we read the Bible, we say, the word of the Lord. And then we say, thanks be to God. Remember, Jesus is the word that became flesh and dwelt among us. And in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, the word that is read there becomes flesh in the body of Jesus, and he will dwell among us when we receive him in Holy Communion. Isn't that beautiful? Another way in which Jesus is present at Holy Mass is through the people who attend the Mass. We always say, we are the body of Christ. Jesus is the head, and we are the body, right? So in every person who attends Mass, created in the image and likeness of God, is another Jesus. But most especially when we are gathered here into the body of the church, we become one body, and Jesus at the altar becomes our head. So that whenever we look at everyone, we see Jesus in them. So those are the different ways in which we see Jesus and encounter Jesus in the holy sacrifice of the Mass. The altar, the priest, his word, his body in the most holy Eucharist, and then in the people. God bless you.